How do I, 22F, explain to my grandma, 68F, that I don't want to hear about my aunt, 45F, right now? It has been a constant theme in my life that my aunt is the biggest priority for my grandparents. They always favored her over my dad because she made something of herself even though no one gave him the same opportunities or financial help that she got, and he still works in a very honest profession. I'm an only grandchild, which did get me a decent amount of attention, but when I was about 9 my aunt went wild. She divorced her rich husband, lost her job, she'd been a teacher but was fired for sleeping with a student. She taught middle school, and remarried to a serious creep while doing wild amounts of drugs. My grandparents in turn bought her a house and at this point have purchased 8 vehicles for her. The last 7 were sold for drugs because she proudly tells everyone, grimacing face. I genuinely felt bad for her for a long time, but she robbed and left one of my friends for dead at one point, so I personally have no respect for her left. My grandma is a sweetheart and one of my best friends. She was even my maid of honor at my wedding. My husband, 28M, loved both of my grandparents, and with them getting older we moved within walking distance to be around them. They are always busy doing stuff for my aunt, and lately we've barely seen them. In August my husband was driving to work and got into a terrible accident. He died instantly. I've definitely withdrawn into myself, but I try to have people around me a lot here. It's a 2-minute walk to my house from theirs. Every time my grandma drops in lately she's constantly talking about my aunt. How she worries for her and how she's such a good kid and she wishes she could protect her. Meanwhile I'm literally holding my poor husband's ashes trying to hold back tears so she can vent to me. I don't want to be ungrateful at all, but I'm incredibly depressed and I think my issues are a little more serious. Which I do talk to her, and she listens, but then she goes back to how my aunt is out every night and she can't understand. They pay every single bill for my aunt and give her anything she wants while I've been surviving on my parents' minuscule monetary help. They really don't have it. I'm not mad, and the last bit of money in my bank account until I can get the life insurance. I did ask for help from my grandparents, but they were stretched too thin and chose my aunt, which made my dad get so mad. But I understand. The other day she asked if I would want to sell my car to her so she could give it to my aunt. The last vehicle I have memories with my husband in just to be sold off for drugs. Started crying and I know she didn't understand, but it just felt so terrible and inappropriate. What am I even supposed to do? I have a therapist BTW, there's no need to suggest it. I don't expect my grandma to take on my issues, but I'm straight up depressed and I want to talk about other things. Too long didn't read. I lost my husband in an accident 2 months ago. My grandma only wants to talk about my aunt and her problems, but I just do not have it in me to handle this right now. I still want to spend time with her, but she's obsessed with my aunt and solving every issue that comes up for her. You need some space from your grandparents. They're way too wrapped up in their own self-made drama to actually provide the appropriate care and support you need. You can't make them pull their heads out of their assess. You can't make them provide the support you need. You can and should set a boundary that you don't want to talk about your aunt right now. You're dealing with your husband's death and your entire life falling apart. You don't have space for her drama right now. It could be that your grandparents are having some issues with their memory and thus keep circling back to your aunt, but honestly, that's not really your problem right now. Work on expecting less from them. Work on having some physical and emotional space from them. Maybe find some other widows to bond with and support outside of your family. I am sorry for your loss. If your grandparents really wanted to help your aunt, they would put her in rehab. They are just enabling her drug addiction and are part of your aunt's problems. Anyhow, that's quite a list. Your aunt is a manipulative, abusive, drug user, pedophile, who robbed and nearly killed a friend, and takes advantage of your grandparents. The pedophile part is indefensible, as is robbing a friend, let alone nearly killing the friend. Write your grandma a letter, go visit her, hand it to her, tell her to read it and leave immediately. In the letter explain directly that from now on your aunt is a forbidden topic with you. You lost your husband and need your grandma's emotional support, but instead she ignores your hurt and keeps talking about a person. 1. Is drug user. 2. Tilda slept with Tilda raped an underage kid, which makes her a pedophile. 3. robbed and nearly killed your friend. 4 takes advantage of your grandparents. If she calls you and starts talking about your aunt, interrupt her with a firm no. / raped an underage kid. Grandma, I know aunt is a big concern for you, but I'm at the point I just can't be involved anymore. It's starting to feel like all you talk about is aunt this and aunt that, and I'm tired. I'm not going to tell you what to do about her situation, but I just can't listen to you vent about and enable her anymore. I'm happy to refer you to a therapist if you need someone to talk to about her. Al-Anon meetings are also there for you. The fact is, I'm grieving, I'm scared, and I'm lost. I just lost my husband and I need to focus on my health. I love having you around, but if you can't stop talking about aunt, I'm going to need to take some space. It's just not productive or healthy for me to have those kinds of conversations with you anymore. If she asks why, be honest, but don't debate it. Just state your list of reasons like you did here and tell her she's free to feel differently, but you're entitled to your opinion of her. You refuse to be an enabler to her behavior, which includes not talking about her all the time, as that's not where you want to put your energy. If she starts arguing, simply say, I've said my piece. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm going to go now. Please respect my new boundaries on our future visits. Then immediately leave and give her some space. And when she starts inevitably talking about aunt again, cut her off and remind you of the boundary you've set. Grandma, I hear that's stressful for you, but aunt is just not a conversation topic I'm willing to have with you anymore. Please change the subject. If she gets upset or refuses, leave or ask her to leave. Rinse and repeat until she gets it. Sounds like your grandparents are seriously delusional about their kid. I'm torn between respecting that you care for them and wondering how the hell you put up with these people. They played blatant favorites for your aunt over your dad and now excuse their favorites' wildly inappropriate and hurtful behavior. And your grandma doesn't seem to give a fuck that you are grieving the death of a spouse. I hope you would not ever genuinely consider letting them buy your car or do anything for them at all when they do nothing for you. Also, exclamation mark. I genuinely felt bad for her for a long time, but she robbed and left one of my friends for dead at one point, so I personally have no respect for her left. And was fired for sleeping with a student she taught middle school. That second story is rape of a minor. How can your grandparents possibly support this person? This is insane. Realized I didn't actually make a recommendation, so here it is. Think seriously about whether they are worth having in your life. First of all, I am so sorry about your husband. What a horrible thing to happen. Secondly, is your grandma still entirely there? Because this obsession sounds downright bizarre. Who asks a grieving widow of only 2 months to sell them her car? You mentioned in another comment that your grandpa seems to be more reasonable, or at least more aware of their behavior. Can you get him to help point out to your grandma how incredibly painful her behavior is to you? Or else your dad, but considering his justified reaction to their declining to help you out financially, that might not be the best option. Another option may be to write them a letter, perhaps with the help of your therapist. Explain how you would still like to spend time with your grandparents, but you just don't have the emotional bandwidth to deal with anything but your very recent loss. You can either send the letter or read it out to her, whatever feels more comfortable. And if she doesn't take it well, I'd seriously reconsidering seeing her, at least in the next few months. Good luck, and much strength. My girlfriend's 23F sister 11F died in a car accident last night. What do I do? I've never felt loss like this. I can't stop crying. She was such a sweet girl that I helped raise, and I feel like a piece of me is gone, and I'm trying so hard to be strong for my girlfriend, but I don't know what to do. My girlfriend watched her and raised her, but she's dealt with death her entire life and she seems to be handling it. I don't know. Maybe I'm the one who needs help. I just don't know. I feel so discombobulated and lost. I'm sorry if this is the wrong sub. I just need to know what to do. TL, doctor, need help to be strong for my so. I'm so sorry for your loss. It's unfair and awful. Keep checking in with your girlfriend and let her know that you want to be there for her in any way she needs. I doubt that she's handling it exactly just that she's reacting to it differently. Her grief will show in different ways and different times than yours. One way you may be able to help is to offer to take on some of the work of letting people know and or taking on some logistical tasks for the funeral / wake / Shivas / however the family wants to handle it. Also, please call a friend or two of your own. You deserve to be supported too. Pain sucks, sadness sucks. Unfortunately, you will carry both for a long time. Sometimes things are not fair. Sometimes life is not fair. Things don't make sense. There will be days when you're going to have to find even a smidgen of strength to make it through the day. The good news is time heals wounds and you have your girlfriend to mourn with. Hopefully you can build a solid foundation together to grow together through tragedy. I'll get downvoted for this last part. But if you believe in God, I suggest speaking with a pastor to unanswered questions you have, and as frequently as you feel the need to deal with your pain. Life is not fair. She was the last person who would ever possibly deserve something like this. I didn't before, but I believe now. She has to be somewhere nice, or none of this is worth it. She has to be somewhere that was as kind and boat today I fucked up as she is. My brain immediately goes to Gandalf describing what comes after death to Pippin. I hope she is on those shores, and I hope she is watching that boat today I fucked up sunrise. I have to believe that. I'm so sorry for the loss both of you are experiencing. That is a devastating experience. The best advice I can give you is to read up on the ring theory of grief and find people other than your girlfriend to lean on for the support you need so you can provide her with the support she needs. Your girlfriend may seem to be handling it well now, but it's also possible she's in shock, or that she's focusing on the details / logistics and will fall apart once she has to get back to real life without her sister there. Please be gentle with yourself and maybe consider looking into a grief support group for both of you. Thank you for the suggestion. I stopped reading books, and she loved to read, so I'm going to read every damn book I put my eye on. I'll start with this one. We're going to go to grief counseling. Thank you. Be patient with both your GF and yourself. Really intense feelings of pain will come and go. There will also be moments when you think of her and feel happy and / or at peace. Those moments may not come for a few days or weeks. Then the horrible feelings will come again. Losing someone really special just / your brain and your emotion for a while. It may be a year before your GF starts to stabilize. Be very patient with her, and with yourself. Accept the feelings whenever and however they come. Maybe at an engagement party and one of you may start bawling out of the blue. That's normal. Grief counseling is a great idea. Also, different people grieve in very different ways and on very different schedules. You may feel 90% back to normal in 6 months, and it may take your GF 18 months, or vice versa. At a memorial service you may feel at peace and your GF may be bawling, or vice versa. You may also experience periods of indifference when it doesn't feel like her death is affecting you one way or the other. Couples break up during grief sometimes because they don't realize their partner is also grieving, but not in the same way. Be very accepting of both of your feelings and very patient as the grief process works its way through. I am so very, very, very sorry for all of you. Best wishes. Keep hugging your girlfriend and keep saying I love you and I'm here for you. All you really can do for someone in this situation is to be there. Don't try to talk her down from her feelings or minimize them or tell her it will be better in time. That's true but very unhelpful. Stick with I love you and I'm here for you. Be there. That's the most important thing you can do. If you notice the place looking a bit untidy, clean up for her. Make some easy batch meals that can be frozen to just shove in the microwave. If she wants to sit in silence, you sit in silence together. She wants to cry, you cry together. I've been in a very similar position to your GF. Honestly, be there when she wants you. Be invisible but reachable when she needs a moment of space to wrap her head around things. And don't be afraid to joke with her like you did before this happened. Some normality will really help stabilize the situation. Also remember you're going through this too, so don't be afraid to show emotions. Be strong doesn't mean don't cry, it means don't give up. Adding on to this, Don't be ashamed/afraid to let your friends and family help you guys. If people offer to bring you food or have a meal delivered, let them. If you guys are struggling to keep up with laundry and someone nearby asks what they can do to help, ask if they will run a few loads. My 30M friends went on a trip without inviting me, after I was part of the initial conversation to take the trip. Before quarantine, a friend and I were talking about how much we wanted to visit a specific city. Almost everyone in our town knows people, so it's often where people go on trips, and made those we should go soon kind of plans you make when you have commitments with unclear end dates. At the start of quarantine we kept talking about going, and ideas of things to do when we go after quarantine. Nothing close to set in stone. Near the beginning of quarantine, a member of my immediate family got diagnosed with a serious, life-threatening illness. I've always been prone to depression, but at first I was doing well. Still seeing friends as much as allowed, still keeping up with messaging people. As time went on, the realities of the illness started to really strike home, as well as the idea that I may never actually see them again. Their immune system was shot, and it's risky enough in a non-pandemic. My mood got progressively worse, leading to incredible fatigue. But I also started to intentionally socially isolate it for if they felt well enough to see each other, outside, from a distance of course. The family member is doing much better, and we got to talk in person recently as well. Not part of the story, but something I've been ecstatic about. At some point during quarantine, the aforementioned friend and I were talking with another group of friends who had gone on a camping trip, and several of us mentioned wanting to get an Airbnb for a night or two in a small town nearby for fun. Little of that was mentioned again. A few days ago we were in a chat with a group of friends, when one friend says, "When are you guys getting back?" Friends mention a day, and I'm clearly uncomfortable because this is something I know nothing about. It turns out a small group of friends got an Airbnb and are going for a couple of nights. I just feel crushed. It was something I seem to have been intentionally not told about. An hour or two passes with me not messaging anything, literally thinking I may just never talk to them again because what the hell do I say now? Before I message the friend I'm closest with, "How long has there been actual plans?" Within an hour she replies, "There was a trip planned a couple weeks ago to the first city that got cancelled because of increased COVID fears. They planned it when I was first starting to really socially distance because the family member's surgery date was fast approaching. The trip they went on was spontaneous and last minute, booked the night before we talked." She said she didn't want to tell me because they didn't want to ask if I wanted to come to a high COVID area, and this most recent trip they didn't think it was appropriate. On the one hand, I understand. The camping trip I mentioned earlier was one I missed out on because my family member was admitted into the hospital and I decided I didn't want to be unreachable for a week, so I stayed home. But that was a choice I made, one I had the option to make. And yes, they knew I'd been isolating, but they also knew I got to see my family member in person and their surgery was done. I think one of the worst parts, though, is that one of my biggest, self-related, fears about this whole thing was when I finally got to start living a normal life again. My friends would think I've been a bad friend and not want to talk to me, or even worse, have just stopped considering me. Two of the people on the trip are two of very few people I've told what's going on. No one on the trip but the first friend mentioned was there when the Airbnb idea was first brought up. The first friend I've mentioned, I've specifically mentioned how hard it's been because I'm worried people will be mad with me for being a bad friend. I don't really know what to do. I understand where they were coming from, but maybe that's just me being worried about losing friends and making concessions. How do I go back to normal knowing I was intentionally left out of plans? I don't want to cut the friend out of my life, because I genuinely like them. I know they worry and are anxious about being rude or mean or doing the wrong thing to friends, but how can I be part of a friend group where I now can't trust that I haven't been intentionally left out of anything? I haven't even replied to the explanation because of how close to my dread the situation hit, and I was worried when I started typing I'd write a message that essentially said goodbye, because I don't want that to happen. But I don't know what to even say at this point. Too long didn't read. Been socially isolating for several weeks while everything has been reopening so I could see a family member in person for the first time in 7 months before they went into hospital for an incredibly risky surgery. Found out several friends had planned a couple of trips and went on one without asking me. I think you need to clearly communicate with them. They might have thought it was better not to invite you for you, or they might have not wanted you to come. It's not possible to know currently. Ask them, in person if you can, and talk about it. If there's no previous instances where they purposefully left you out, I wouldn't worry too much about it though. Also, I'm glad your family member is doing better and you got to speak to them. That's great. I think I've been on the other side, and my best advice is to 1. Not take it personally. They knew you were busy and isolating and might have initially wanted you to come but thought it inappropriate. 2. Again, not take it personally. After a while of not coming, sometimes friends just get closer with other friends and want to spend time with them. Sometimes it's plain inconvenience to not have a large group, especially during COVID. 3. Well, now that we changed our mental state, the next step is to be proactive in a non-annoying way. Someone mentioned to constantly ask what the next event is, but do this sparingly, since when people do this to me I get tired of being associated with bringing that person or being asked the same question. So what happens if they seem annoyed or uninterested in telling you about future events? 4. Create your own events. People hate planning sometimes, me, so when I do plan events, 9/10 of them are just for close friends, 1 to 6 people, and the other 1/10 are for my extended group, 10 to 20. It's really just planner's preference, but when you're the planner you get to set the date, activity and the people that get invited. 5. If no one seems interested after a good amount of tries, then it's time to pull someone aside and have a real talk or get a new group of friends. Honestly, I've been on both sides, but I really advocate for being a planner of events because you really do get the most control/access to the events going on in your groups, and people are more likely to reciprocate inviting you back. Good luck, my friend. Mate, I am like you, always pulling away when depressed, and my friends know me well enough to recognize me, honor my distance. This was on you. You self-isolated and had someone sick at home. They did not ask because you did not give them any indication you were ready. I know it hurts because you probably think they did this for some insane reason like not liking you, but they literally only did what you wanted and keep away for as long as you needed. This whole situation is awful. It sounds like they were doing their best to be thoughtful and not put pressure, stress on you. You can control what happens next. I'm definitely interested in whatever gets planned next. When is everyone next getting together?